What's up, guys? Welcome to the podcast. I got a special guest here. I met you recently.
Yes.
And it's funny because we all of a sudden just became like friends, and we
That's
just
cool.
chat, and I think it's your personality and your characteristics. But before we get into the podcast, tell everybody who you are, what you do, and what you're about.
Sure. My name is Meliton Ramirez, which is a very unique name. My dad was Meliton Senior. I was Junior. But everybody that knows me, their friends call me Mel. There's a very funny story of when I was growing up. The name Meliton wasn't that popular. Actually, there's a song by a Mexican singer that's a comedian, kind of like the Mexican Weird Al Yankovic, but his name was, I forgot, Piporro. That's it.
Piporro.
Anyway, so he has a lot of funny Spanish songs. So he wrote a song called Meliton El Abusón.
Huh.
And that was just, I couldn't handle it. So every time there was a roll call in school, you know, everybody's saying the names, and here, I would hate when they get to my name because it was a lot of Anglo teachers, and everybody just starts snickering, man. So
Yeah.
I learned how to fight real young, and I was always in the principal's office because what happened? Well, he made fun of my name, and, you know. But I learned how to embrace it. I started, growing up. I researched a couple of cool things about my name. And it turns out that he was a patron saint for music
Oh, interesting.
in Puerto Rico. So there's a song by Ricky Martin that's called Por Arriba, Por Abajo.
Yeah.
And in the words, it says San Meliton enséñame el son. And I was like, what did he just say? That's Ricky Martin saying my name? Anyways, and so when I researched it, turns out he was a priest from Greece, originated from Greece, was transferred by the church to Puerto Rico, and he saved a lot of slaves off the ships, because the ships, the galleons would stop, and some of them would escape and run to the church, and he would save them. So when the slave owners were knocking on the church door, he says, you can't enter here. So he was patronized, or he was canonized as a saint for that.
Interesting.
And then, of course, the African, Cuban, or African, Puerto Rican sounds started coming from the church first. And that's where we get son, bachata, merengue, salsa. So I felt a little bit better about
all
my
the
name.
good stuff.
But anyways, you can call me Mel.
Mel. That's how you introduce yourself as Meliton. It's like, everybody calls me Mel.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about what you do before we get into the podcast. We covered your name, but what do you do?
So obviously, I self-studied. I call it, I got my poor man's PhD in herbology through YouTube and Google. So I created a pain cream that is now called Sanamax, right? And I have never really done anything of this size or nature in my life. I was in sales. I went to school. I joke around. I say, hey, I graduated with my GED early at 12th grade. Actually, I was supposed to graduate with a diploma, but things happen in life, right? And so I had moved away to San Antonio, and they had a lower requirement, so I blew off school. My senior year, I think I was partying all the time, having fun. And so I was okay, and I was about to graduate, but my friends in Mac High said, hey, come back over here and graduate. And when I moved back here, I only had 19 credits. So I said, well, what do I have to do? The counselor said, we'll give you a GED if you walk the stage with your friends, if you go and take it. So I took it, passed it in about 45 minutes. I think it's the fastest GED time on record. I was educated. Anyways, and so we ended up, I have a great career in education. And after that, I was in sales.
Which is, to me, one of the hardest things to do.
I was the best Tandy 1000 computer salesman in Radio
Really?
Shack. Yeah, I was 16 selling computers, and I didn't know a damn thing about computers. It was MS-DOS software, right? And it was like, what the heck? And the manager pulled me aside and said, hey, Mel, you're basically lying to these customers of what this computer can do. but if you knew,
make the sale.
but if you knew what you were saying, you would be great. Anyways, that was the beginning of my illustrious 10-year career at Radio Shack.
Interesting.
Yeah, that was funny.
So before we get into the podcast, we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to talk to our sponsors. We'll be right back. All right, we're back. So the Legacy app, dude.
Oh, yeah.
You're part of something that's really interesting to me, and the story that you told me about it, and this is part of it, right? This is kind of what led up to something of that nature. Explain to everybody what the Legacy app does, because I think this is one of the coolest things, and I tell all my friends about it whenever you come up specifically. And I was like, there's this dude from the Valley that made this app, and it's freaking genius, man. So talk about it.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So Legacy was born out of necessity. They say that necessity is the invention, or the mother of all inventions, right? And so I don't want to call it an invention. It was more of a natural progression. My dad was a minister for 30 some years. And so that's the reason why we moved to San Antonio when he went to study at the seminary. And so he uprooted us. And so for a long time, he was preaching. And as you get older, our parents get older, he, became sick, ill. I won't get into too many details, but we recorded a lot of little videos for the church. So he was a pastor in McAllen at Iglesia Tierra Prometida Bautista, very traditional Hispanic church. And so while he was in the hospital, we would record him. And so we started recording little videos of him saying, thank you for the prayers, thank you for this, thank you for that, sending messages to the to the congregation. And those videos started becoming kind of an archive of his time in the hospital. And it very soon became a full-time job to just sort them out and put them into categories. I still remember very clearly on my computer just putting this one is for hermana so-and-so, and this is for hermano so-and-so, and this message is for the church. And literally on Sundays when he was in his hospital bed, we would record him, and he would give a 5-10 minute sermon, and they would air it on Sundays, and we still have memories of that. And so once he passed, which was the hardest thing that you can go through as a son, right? You lose your loved ones, or especially your mom or dad. In this case, my dad. My mom's still alive. So when he passed, I basically, went into mourning. I just dropped out of life. It was hard for me to even function. But what really helped me was all the little videos that were on there. And it's kind of like when you watch a movie, right? The first time you watch it, you enjoy it, but you're distracted in some parts because you're processing or whatever happens. And so the second time you watch it, you pick up on things that you didn't see. The little details. And the third time wow. And I'm still picking up stuff from Forrest Gump after the 10th or 12th time. I'm like, wow, I didn't see that. Anyway, so that's what happened to me. I started watching these videos again, and it's almost like he was talking to me again. So he helped me get over my depression of losing him by all the videos that we had recorded.
After death.
Yes. And so I said, wow, this is so healing. This is like I still have him here. And we've all lost a loved one or special person in our life. And imagine if you could just pick up the phone and call them sometimes. I think I even heard of this country song that really touched me that was about, sorry for dialing your number. It's my dad's old number. Oh my God, that made me. And so he's apologizing as a person because I just dial once in a while by habit. And so what I decided to do, and actually I didn't decide it. It was a dream. Actually, it came to me in a dream. And it was so vivid because I remember all the details. And I remember being in a park bench and seeing all the grass. It was green. And of course, the grass was green, but it was just more green. It was vibrant. The blue was bluer. The air just, and I could totally just imagine it right now. And so I start seeing this figure walking towards me. And I can't tell who it is because it's kind of like pixelated, so to speak. That's the best image or I guess word I can use. But so he starts walking to me, and as he starts getting closer, I just kind of lose my breath, and I'm like, it's my dad. I could tell it's my dad, but I can't focus on him. And eventually he sits next to me. He pats me on the leg and says, Meli, because he'd call me Meliton, right? So the only one that could call me Meli, because, it's kind of funny. Melissa's, they go by Meli. But my dad would call me Meli because that's the nickname. And so we ended up, he ends up talking to me, but he whispers in my ear, and he just, and I can't really understand everything. In that moment, I guess I'm listening to it and I'm understanding it, but the last thing he tells me is the last thing in the dream, what he told me, the last words he told me when he was alive. He says, remember I told you that we're going to be in heaven and we're not going to be looking down, but there's going to be certain things that, and he quoted scripture, and he says, God is faithful to those that are faithful, and will give them the desires of their hearts. And my desire is that your mom, your brothers, and I can get emotional. will be taken care of. And so I just want you to know that I'm here, and God allowed me to talk to you about this. And then he explained to me that there was going to be certain things that was going to let me know that there was divine guidance, not by him, but by God. And so, of course, I'm in tears in the dream, and I said, Dad, don't leave, that type of stuff. And then the next image I had was me walking through this door, and I see life extension messaging on the door, embossed on the door. And I've got my hand, and I remember very clearly just pushing the door open. And before I pushed it open, the L, the E, and the M from life extension messaging kind of pop out, and they just do this little circle thing. And it was just kind of a coincidence or curious thing where it says Mel, which is my nickname.
Yeah.
And it goes back to life extension messaging. And I'm walking in, and there's this boardroom, and there's like all these suits and people, and we're in this high-rise building, and I'm wondering, what am I doing here, right? And that part hasn't happened yet.
Not yet.
I don't know, it might. But it was interesting because that's where I wake up. And what he whispered in my ear, I could not recall. I could recall the whole dream, but the interesting thing about it is, as I've lived my life since he's passed, it's been 6 years, going on 7 this September, there's been little things that when you have deja vu and you say, I've lived this before.
Yeah.
There's times when I'm sitting there and I'm doing something, and boom, that whispering in the ear comes back, and then it's revealed to me. It is the most, awe-inspiring yet kind of chills feeling. You can see I've got the little chills here.
Goosebumps there.
Goosebumps. And it happens all the time. And specifically in moments when I'm either a loss for words, or I have a hard decision to make, certain things happen. It's really an amazing, special thing. And so part of all that, in that dream, what I do remember, I started writing stuff down, is that he says, you will bless a lot of people by creating something that will commemorate people's lives. And I said, wow, so this isn't original to me. A lot of people have had this idea before where, you've heard of the guy who, has cancer, is dying, and sets up delivery for flowers for his wife's anniversary or their anniversary for the next 20 years.
Yeah.
Or there's movies been written about it, like Michael Keaton, My Life, where he had cancer, and I don't know if you've seen the movie.
No, I haven't seen that.
Okay, so it's about father-son story, and he knows he's not going to be around for his son, so he starts recording. At the time, it was with VHS tapes, and he's recording little messages on how to shave and advice, tips. P.S. I Love You, another movie that dealt with the subject. It's not a new idea, but it is now going digital. Mm-hmm. So with the technology, all the phones that we carry, we are now in the latter stages of developing this application. It's been a bumpy ride, but it's been worth it. There's times where you just lose faith a little bit, and then boom, those moments happen to me again. And just recently, it happened. I think I sent you a little video.
Yeah.
I was kind of going through some things, and I ended up in Port Isabel, and it was, not by design. I just felt called to be there, and I stopped at the American Legion Post 498. Shout out to all my 70-plus friends. It was funny because I was just hanging out one Sunday, and then we become buddies, and we start recording them, and they shared so many wonderful stories, and it reminded me why we started this app, because it's been 4 years.
Yeah,
there's been a lot of, it's a struggle to create technology, and my partners, they've been wonderful. They've been there for me every step of the way, because it costs money to develop technology. Yeah. And
especially at the magnitude that you're trying to achieve it.
Well, it's been rough. It's been I guess 4.5 years now. We kind of did a soft launch 3 years ago at Sundance, and we had a short film called Panacea. I think you saw that.
Yep.
And so a good buddy of mine, Carlos Moreno Jr. out of California, he's from the Valley, but he's an actor up in L.A., and he actually called me and says, hey, Mel, I'd like to put your app into the movie. And it was a wonderful 20-minute short film that deals with life and death. And so we were kind of plugged in there, and you saw it, so you know what I mean. So if you guys haven't seen it, I guess you could put a link for that.
Absolutely.
Actually, it's on Amazon. I think it's still on Amazon. So, but anyways, the movie's called Panacea, and it deals with a struggling actor And of course, life and death and friendship. So, that's life. And so we got accepted into the New York Latino Film Festival, and they happened to have a spot for us inside of Sundance.
That's awesome, man.
We weren't official Sundance selection, but we were still, I guess, snuck our way in through the New York Latino Independent Film Festival, and we had a wonderful PR team that helped us promote the app, and we had so many people just wanting to sign up, but the app wasn't ready.
Yeah.
And so, here we are 3 years after still getting the app to function properly, because it's not easy, man.
Yeah, so, developers, all that stuff. And I think the coolest thing about this is it's like Instagram or Facebook, where you'll schedule something for the future. So, for example, like if I were to pass away and my daughter grows older and she gets married,
sure,
I'd be able to have a message for her. It's like, hey, I'm sorry I couldn't be there for obvious reasons, but I hope you have a wonderful and beautiful day. So, and I think that's beautiful.
Thank you. I got a little lost on the story, but basically with the app, and when we were trademarking it and naming it, and you have to go through all the legal channels and lawyers and stuff, the word legacy is not patentable. Is that the word? You can't patent certain words. It's like free domain for everyone. So you have to distinguish yourself from the next person, right? So if you look online or on whatever Play Store or Apple stores, and you type in the word legacy, you're going to get a whole bunch of games like Legacy Conquest, Legacy this, Legacy that. And if you just look around town, I mean, there's Legacy Funeral Homes, there's Legacy Bank. I didn't even know there was a Legacy Bank. And the word legacy has been used forever. What's your life's legacy? It's not a proprietary word. So when we registered it, we had to register something that made us unique along with it. So we chose what the app does, which is Legacy Stay Present, which allows you to stay present. So the word itself, legacy, we had a very unique acronym, because remember I mentioned when I saw in my dream life extension messaging or messages, the messaging, the word was a little too long. So a good friend of mine named Devin, he helped me change the word. And he says, why don't you just use grams like Instagram, but it's not instant. It's a life extension gram. And I said, that's pretty cool. So it's a leg. So every little video, we acronymed it a leg. So every little video you record and it stays in the cloud is a leg.
Is a leg.
So what Twitter created, which is a tweet. Now we have leg will be a video, right? Or a comment or whatever. And so we have, I don't know if you can see my tattoo here, but the first three letters, life extension gram.
Yeah.
So when we trademarked it, we said we have legacy, stay present, and we have legs, each little video. So that's our unique position in the marketplace.
I think it's awesome, dude, because I remember the first time I heard about it, my friend was going through cancer, and it was her name is Dolores, and she had reached out to me to do some video work with her and for her kid. And it never happened. Our schedules just never worked. And that she ended up passing away. I felt horrible, man. I was like, shit. Like
we all have stories that way.
Yeah. And it sucked. It really sucked, because she was a huge part of the community. But
what was her name? Dolores?
Dolores, yeah. My buddy Richard told me about your app and was like, dude, this is perfect for people who go through something like that. It's just so monumental that It's an extension. Right?
Yeah.
And it's an extension of your life.
So I did some research early on, nothing formal, just my own little Google searches. And if you search suicide rates for final stage cancer, it's unbelievable. And it may not be, killing themselves with a gun or hanging themselves or any other way to go, which is ugly even to mention. But a lot of people, they do commit suicide. And sometimes it's drinking, sometimes it's alcohol or drugs, and they don't care about their life because they feel that there's no hope. And so one of the things that I feel very blessed to be able to be a part of, and it's more motivating to me than money, although you do need money to survive in life. But what really motivates me is that people can commemorate their life, and even if they're not going to be here past a certain age because of their illness or their situation in life, they can record the messages that will continue to deliver long after they're here on earth.
Yeah.
So we have scheduled deliveries, right? Which are what we call it delayed video messaging. So all apps out there, and we're not trying to recreate Facebook or Instagram. We already have that stuff. So I have naysayers that say, why do I need your app? I mean, I could already record stuff, and yeah, you can. I mean, that's just do it, right? I mean, go on Facebook, go on wherever, and record some messages because the platforms are already existing for that. However, everything is in the moment, right? So you deliver now, everything's instant. Instagram and Snapchat and TikTok is what, 10, 15, 20 seconds. Everything's quick. And look at me, world. I'm eating a popcorn and somewhere. It's like, it's fun, but it's not as meaningful as, say, a message from your father if he's departed, and all of a sudden it says, incoming leg from your dad. I mean, that stops your day. Yeah. And that makes you pay attention. It's meaningful. So we call it meaningful delayed video messaging. So you can actually record a video now, send it like every other app. It's not unique, right? You just send it and your friend gets it, or family, loved one, or you can program it for later. So you can record something right now. Let's say somebody invited you for a wedding and you can't make it, especially during the time of pandemic. Now we're coming out of it. But you can literally record a video, program it for, let's say, December 25th, a Christmas message, a wedding day message, set it, forget it, and you're done. And then if you forget, the app will remember for you in that day, just like a Google Calendar reminder. Boom, it lands on your friends or your loved one's app. And
it publishes it.
Yeah, and it's really a cool way to send messages. And then there's the third option, which is the most, heartfelt, riveting. I call it the somber. When you're in that mood that you're sitting there being introspective and you're thinking about life, and you want to record a message that will transcend your life on earth, you lock that in the cloud. You assign a trustee, a close loved one, could be a wife, could be a friend, vice versa. If it's a female, it could be their husband, it could be somebody that they know that they can entrust all those videos in case they die, because people do die if they're not sick. I mean, accidents happen, Lord forbid, knock on wood, but no one's guaranteed tomorrow. So if you take the time to record videos for your loved ones, for the just in case, then the app will deliver to your loved ones after your death. Wow. And that's the uniqueness that separates us from the whole rest, and that therefore ties in with the name Life Extension Grams, or legacy. And we're all creating our own life's legacy.
Well, I commend you for keeping going with this, man, because 4 years is a long time. And we were talking about earlier, is like entrepreneurship has those really high highs, really low lows. I go through it too, man. It's like the other day I was trying to work out and I just didn't feel like it. I was like, I just lost hope. And I think one of those PTSD and depression is something that people don't really talk about. And the podcast I had with my buddy Mario, he opened up about the depression that he went through during the whole pandemic. And a
lot of people.
Yeah, I don't struggle with depression, but I have those tendencies where I'll fall. I'm like, man, I'll just beat myself up. And it's very hard to pick yourself back up.
You're only human.
How do you deal with that?
You know what? That's a good question. After I finish my little pity parties, because we all have those.
Yeah.
Even my girlfriend will tell you.
I think they're necessary, man.
There's 5 stages of grieving, right? And then you kind of, first you're angry, then I don't know what the stages are, but I do know that the sooner you get through those 5, the sooner you come out of it. I think it's the same thing for depression, or when you're feeling melancholic. That's the worst, because you might not be depressed because your life's going well. Especially right now for me, we're going through this great little momentum in my business, and our product with Sundance is about to be launched, and we're going to be in HEBs and
that's awesome, man.
And CVS, which is a big deal because it's been 8 years in that coming. And so even though all this is going great, then here I am going through this little instability in the home. And I'm not getting divorced or anything, but I was going to buy a house that I'm renting now, and then they pulled the rug from under our feet, and now I have to look for a home. And I'm like, 4 years of
always something, man.
4 years of stuff accumulated is just daunting. So I was just depressed, and I told my girlfriend, you know what? I'm not even going to pack one thing. I just want to get rid of everything. Start from scratch. But no, how do I get over that? I don't know. I just go through it. The sooner you get to the acceptance stage and be thankful. I'll tell you one story that helps me, and I reflect on it right now because I've done it multiple times. I don't know if you remember the name Cook here in McAllen.
E?
C-O-O-K.
C-O-O-K-E? Or no?
I don't know if it's an E, but you've heard of the Vanny Cook building?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So the Cook family, very wealthy family from the Valley. I don't know, maybe in my 20s. It's a long time ago. And one of the cooks, the old man, I didn't even know who he was, but I went to a nursing home, and I won't say the name, right? But I went to a nursing home, drop off some food for my then, significant other I was dating at the time. And I'm sitting there because I was broke as hell. I didn't know what I was going to do with my life. And there's this old man sucking on oxygen. He had this, the little tank with a roller.
The tank you walk.
And he noticed that I was sad, and he says, "What's wrong, young man?" And I'm like, I was like, "Who are you? Like, why are you asking me?" And so I started opening up. I don't know why. I just opened up to the old man, and he's, "I'll tell you what, son, I'll make a deal with you." He says, "I don't know if you know me, but my family's very wealthy. And here I am in a nursing home, and they call this quality care. It sucks living." And he says, "I'll sign a contract right now with you, and I'll transfer all my millions into your account." And I was like, did I just hit the jackpot, or why is he telling me this? And he says, "But with one condition." And I said, "What's that?" "That you give me your health and you take mine." And I was like, what? Like, no. "Yeah, but you'll be a millionaire." And I'm like, I walked out of there thinking, holy crap, your health is worth more than millions of dollars. And I can guarantee you that there's many wealthy people that would give up all their money just to have our health. And that day, it made me feel like a millionaire, because even though I didn't have two nickels to rub with, I felt wealthy because I had health. So I created a little product line as well with shirts, and then I just write the word health, a line, and then wealth. So it's health over wealth. And that's how I get over some depression sometimes.
Interesting.
I just think of my blessings. Count your blessings.
Yeah.
Because if you're breathing and you're alive on this earth, a stressful day above ground is better than a peaceful one underground.
Yeah.
That's the way I try to choose to look at things.
And you're right, man, because I think it's very hard when you're living in the moment to go through that and to see like, okay, well, what's next? And I think a lot of people have really high ambitions and they want to do so much stuff, but then life gets in the way.
Yes. And, you've heard of people like Oprah Winfrey, people that are in the media, and they do these letters to themselves if they were 12 years old. Mm-hmm. I actually did that.
Really?
It was pretty interesting because I wrote a letter to my, 15-year-old self. I can't remember. And I put it away. And it was funny because at the time I wrote it, I was like 40. Now I'm 50. And I found it recently. And it's so crazy, man, how you think and how you change as you get more experience. You start thinking different. And so those little things work. And so that's why the app, I believe, is going to be special, because you can kind of get to document things. And we've all seen it, Facebook, big entity. I mean, they're huge, right? So they do those memories, right? Where they send you memories. They pop back up, and you're like, man, I was skinny.
I was skinny, and I was stupid back then.
So life is about experiences, and every moment that you can capture and the stories that you can, archive, and you can learn from and grow from. I don't know, man. That's why I loved hanging out at the American Legion.
And if you haven't hung out at the American Legions, like I used to play drums with a country band with my dad, and we would always go to we play at at those places. And those people are some of the coolest people they ever meet. They're friends. They'll make you their friend, and they'll drink with you and have a good damn time.
Yeah, I asked one of the ladies. Her name was Mickey. She's 82, and it. No disrespect, but you could tell when they're older, and you could see the fading beauty of what they looked like when they were young. So you could tell that she was a beautiful young lady, and she starts showing me pictures. And I'm just sitting here like, wow, she was a very attractive lady. She's still attractive in her respective age, but what made her even more beautiful or attractive was her stories.
Experience.
And so, since, we talked about my name, Mel, she says, "What's your name?" I said, "Mel." Because if I say Meliton, they're not going to pronounce it right. The closest they're going to get to is Milton. Milton. Everybody knows Milton Berle or Milton Bradley, the games. But when I do talk to Anglo people, say it's Milton. They say, "Oh, what's it?" But this time I just said Mel. And she says, "Oh, I used to be a performer." I said, "Really?" And I used to sing with Mel Tillis. And I'm like, "Oh my God, I remember Mel Tillis from the Whataburger commercials." And he was a stuttering guy. Yeah, Mel Tillis.
Okay. Oh, we talked about this.
Yeah, and so if you research Mel Tillis, he was a pretty good country singer. And what surprised me, she says, he was a neat fella. That's an older word, right? He was a neat fellow. She says, and you know what? He would stutter. You couldn't, wait for him to finish because he was stuttering and he had a hard time. But the minute he grabbed the microphone and sang, all that went away. There was like some magical thing that his mind, his neurotransmitters just switched and he could sing without stuttering.
That's crazy, man.
So it was just all these stories that I kept, that from that day that just, it was beautiful. And I met another gentleman. He was what did he call him? He was in the Navy, and he's the only guy left that fixes navigational systems for shrimpers and for all kinds of yachts and stuff. And so he gifted me some, thanks to David, he gifted me some pink shrimp from the Key West, or Keys from Key West, Florida.
They said they're sweeter, right?
Oh, yeah. I haven't eaten them yet, but they're there. I hope I don't freezer burn them. But these people just made me feel right at home, like you said. But what I took away from all that is that everybody has a story to tell. And they were just, all of a sudden, when they found out I was doing an app and I showed it to them, and, the prototype, they were like, "Oh," and it just started sharing stories. And I said, "Man, I need to come back and just have like a legacy day and start one-on-one promoting it." Because that's another question they ask us: "How are you going to promote this?" I said, "I'm a firm believer that when you do things right, just kind of like a good doctor, people will tell other people about the doctor, and they don't need to advertise." Yeah. But, obviously we live in a world where we do need to somehow get the word out. I think it's people telling others. And just like Richard told you, and I didn't know you from Adam, but Richard, somehow you bumped into him, and Richard is a great guy, good friend of my, one of my partners, Mark Lopez. And we ended up talking to him, and he introduced us to some people out of Austin. And so we've always had a little bit of help here and there. So I do believe that word of mouth is the best type of advertising.
Absolutely.
And we all tell people about a good movie, right? Yeah. And Hollywood doesn't pay us for it.
Yeah, that's true, man. So we're going to take a quick little break. We're going to pay our sponsors, and we'll be right back. All right, so going back to everything that we've been talking about, sure. I think life is very serendipitous. I don't know, the older I get, maybe the more I see it now, but it seems like every little thing connects in some way, and I guess maybe because I'm more focused.
Sure.
What do you think about that?
You know what? It's crazy. The first thought that comes to my mind is a PBS. Was it PBS or Public Broadcast?
Public Broadcast Systems.
But no, there's another one. NPR.
Okay.
National Public Radio. When I drive, I don't normally listen to music, although my kids hate it because they want to listen to music. But thank God there's little earpods now. Mm-hmm. But I'll listen to nerdy stuff like NPR.
Same here, man.
And so I'm listening to NPR, and there was a study done that said that all humans, regardless of race or ethnicity, are all related by no more than 30th cousin. All over the world, there's a tie-in. And that was so amazing. And, we're living in such a divided world right now, and I don't want to get political, but I just want to say that we all have red blood cells inside. And no matter what your skin color is, and no matter what you believe in, we all, like, I sound like John F. Kennedy, but we all breathe the same air. We all have the same fears. We all have families. Yeah. And if we could just keep that in mind, I think that would solve a lot of issues. But, there's so many different things affecting us. So my thought is, yes, there's connections everywhere, just with the scientific fact that we all have blood inside our bodies. And so that's just a natural tie-in to the connections that we have with friends, with business associates, and now more than ever, we're all kind of attached through technology. I mean, you've heard all these stories of Facebook and cheaters.
Yeah.
You can't get away with
You
any
can't
of
get
that
away
crap.
with anything, man.
You know, I mean, so unless you change your identity, but I don't think the federal witness program will protect you for cheaters, right?
Just move away and go to another country.
I just figured, just if you're single, just be single. If you're married, just stay married, man. Happy wife, happy life, and just be good.
That's what I keep hearing.
Yeah, no, and so we're all connected, and that's you can't escape it. There's always somebody that knows you somehow.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that I've lived my life by, early on when I attended a lot of different trainings, there's a gentleman named Hector Lamarck. He was a big successful guy in a multi-level company, insurance company named Primerica. Anyways, he would say, if you ever do anything that ends up in the front page of the newspaper and it makes your family proud, do that. And if you ever do stuff that will make your family shame, don't do that.
Yeah.
It's actually biblical. I can't quote scripture, but make your family proud.
Yeah.
And whatever you do in life, know that there's always going to be witnesses, no matter what.
Yeah.
You got to live like there's cameras on you all the time.
Yeah, it'll force you to to behave.
Bingo. Because man, I mean, I'm not saying I'm a perfect saint because things happen, right? Especially during spring break. I'm kidding. Anyways, so live your life right. Try to do things, in a good way and not hurt others. Be kind, be respectful. And I think that's kind of like informal 10 Commandments, right?
Yeah. Going back to everybody has a story. And that's really one of the reasons why I started exploring the podcast platform is because
Stories.
I knew, stories. People fall in love with stories, and people fall in love with people that are doing stuff or doing something bigger than themselves. And that's one of the real reasons why I started the podcast 4 years ago and interviewing people. At first, I thought it was because it was very selfish for me. Like, I want to extract all the value from you and then give it out to people. At first, it was like that, but then I started seeing like, well, people are extracting this knowledge and they're doing something with it, even if it's one person. And that's why I kept the podcast going, because I knew one day it was going to be something bigger. And 5 years from now, it's going to be something even bigger. But I think this collection of stories is going to be kind of like the Legacy app, where my kids are going to be able to see one day what their dad was like.
Yeah.
Who he was.
That's awesome, because you're leaving the videos.
I'm leaving them for everybody. And hopefully my kids will look at it one day.
I remember Bon Jovi when he was being interviewed at the height of his popularity, because I was a Bon Jovi fan, and John was interviewed, and he says, I'm much too young to get married. Marriage is an institution. Now he's been married for 35 years for the same girl. Anyway, so he was talking about that and how his kids are going to see him one day and say, he was an old time rocker.
Yeah.
He's no longer relevant, but time has proven that wrong.
Yeah.
But so along those lines, I have one up on you as far as you're doing all these videos, but imagine that you sit here with yourself and your equipment and record messages just in case.
Yeah.
And talking about losing friends, I'm trying to keep the same train of thought, but we've lost some friends along the way, and I wish the app was ready, and it hasn't launched yet. We tried it, but it didn't work right, and there's all kinds of bugs. So what I'm getting at is, I tell all my friends, look, man, don't wait for our app. The app in itself is just an idea that's not original. Record some videos for your kids. Get your phone out. We all have cameras. We all have video recording device on our phones. Record something, save it, and just entrust it to somebody, right? The hardest, one of the toughest days of a good friend of mine, Rob Perales, he's a really cool chef and friend, and he used to come and crash out. I used to live right across the street from Infusions, in Santa Fe now, and he would, like to indulge in alcohol, and he didn't want to ride his bike home, so he'd stay at my house, and we'd talk a lot, and he loved the idea of the app. He had a daughter. He has a daughter. Well, he had, because he passed. One day he got a little too drunk, was on his motorcycle, and he got hit. And
I know Robert, man.
Yeah. And down the street from my house, man, I'm like, oh man, it hurt me so much. But that we lose friends, and that happens. But what hurt me even more was that he had told his mom that he had recorded some videos through the Legacy app, but we weren't ready. And when his mom came up to me at his funeral and his little commemoration dinner, it just hurt me so much that we didn't have video of him. And it's kind of like the story of your friend Lotus. And man, I know I cried that time because I said, man, I wish we had it. So I tell everybody, any chance I get, just record some videos. Doesn't have to be on our app. Just record them, save them.
Yeah,
and then just leave the password or the key if you save them. Password protected. Just give it to your loved one and say, hey, here, just in case something. I mean, we carry spare tires in our car, just in case, right?
Just in case.
So some people kind of think, well, why am I going to be talking about death? But because we're all mortal, man. Just do it.
Yeah, I think it's a necessary part of life. I think as you get older, I would like to be more comfortable having conversations about death, like especially with my wife. Like,
sure,
we're not going to be around very much long, and I always tell my kids, and I don't know if it's bad that I do that, but I always tell them like I'm not going to be around forever. Like,
and they don't even believe it.
Yeah, they don't believe it.
No, they're like, yeah, right.
Yeah,
and I've almost what I thought died. I won't go into details and it's not a good feeling to feel like you left things undone. As a matter of fact, I researched this subject. There is groups out there that are more and more nowadays talking about dying well. And people say, well, what are you talking about? This is not talking assisted suicide or being sick and then, asking the doctor to, give you more morphine. And no, this is about real conversations people are having about how to die well. And what is it? What does that mean? The word dying well. And I remember thinking back about my dad and how he held on, even though there's no hope. Like the doctor said, physically, his body just couldn't hold on. He wanted to stay alive. And he told me the last words were, we've been preaching about heaven and how we're going to be in glory. But given a chance, we don't want to go to heaven today. Mm-hmm. I mean, we want to live to a ripe old age of 100 and this is the only life we know. And I guess we can transfer that feeling towards our general thinking of, wake up in the morning on a Saturday saying, hey, honey, let's go shopping for a funeral coffin. Yeah. I mean, you just don't do that because we have a spirit of wanting to stay alive forever, but we do need to prepare that little spare tire for our life, which is, what if you do die? There's so many things left unsaid. And so dying well deals with accepting the fact that we're mortal. We can leave messages, but more than that, we can leave our affairs in order. Wills, 90% of people die without a will.
I've heard that statistic.
Some, good friends of mine, well, I should say my lawyer, Tomas Flores, he deals with probate court. And he says, Mel, it's just crazy how many people, they just don't plan for it because they just don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
And so unless you're going through a cancer situation or terminal illness of some sort, you don't really want to deal with death. Even when you're declared terminal, people just don't want to deal with it. Some people are not allowed to even say, hey, the C word around certain people. But I think that by embracing the fact that we're mortal and we prepare well, there's a doctor, I don't remember his name right now, that researched over 5,000 deaths in a hospice environment. And so they started researching and cataloging all the different types of deaths. And one of the things that was a main factor in people leaving this earth peaceful or not, because there was people that died and were suffering. And he categorized the ones that didn't suffer and went peacefully. The people that went peacefully had all their affairs in order. They had said their goodbyes, asked for forgiveness or given forgiveness. And those people tend to die better. They
didn't have lingering stuff.
Bingo. And so so it's like this. Think about when you're leaving on vacation and you're like, oh, did I forget the stove? And you have all these little pending things. That's just a 1 week trip. Yeah. And imagine that you're on your deathbed. Lord forbid it's tomorrow or any time soon. And you have to let go of your ego, all your friends, all your family and loved ones for good. Because we don't know where we're headed, right? I mean, you can have a whole discussion on just that subject, but the fact that you're leaving, but you see these, I don't know, old Western movies where the Indians, the old chief would go back to his homeland and they're carrying him with a horse with a little thing on the back, and he's going to die in peace in his homeland, right? Yeah. I don't know if people die like that anymore, but I think that that's what this doctor was trying to research on if you make peace with everything on earth, you can die better, or you could die peacefully. And I think that's everybody's goal if you were given a choice, you know.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
20s to 30s, 30s to 40s, 40s to 50. You said you're going to be 50. Go from 30 to 40 and then 40 to 50. What do you think are the lessons that you learned from 30 to 40 and then 40 to 50? Because I'm about to be 40.
Okay.
And that's what I'm talking about, that selfish value that I want to pull out of you.
Yeah, no, it's okay. It's good because I always kind of joke, you know, but I will cut into the serious answer. But I remember somebody posted something. I think it was Sam Elliott. And, you know, they always post stuff with Sam Elliott, right? Mm-hmm. And I say I mean on Facebook and social media. And it says, you better party now at 30 and 40 because at 50, your check engine light's going to come on. That's true. Wow. So my dad used to say that after 40, everything starts hurting. So, you know, in life, depending on how you took care of your body, Warren Buffett has this wonderful graduation speech where Warren Buffett's one of the wealthiest men on earth. And he goes and there's a room of 100 or so graduates. And he says, I'm going to gift you all a car. And everybody's clapping because they think it's an Oprah Winfrey moment, right? He says, but there's a condition. I'm going to sign a contract with you. You can only buy one car. You can't sell it for more money. You got to own it your whole life. It can only last you only one car for your whole life. You have to make it last your whole life. How many still want to sign the contract, right? And there was less hands. And he says, well, I'm not going to gift you guys a car. But what I am talking about is that you have a vehicle called your human body. And how you take care of it is going to determine whether it lasts you up to 30, 40, 50, and right around the question you're asking around the subject. What he was trying to get at is if you change the oil, you rotate your tires in a vehicle, it's going to last longer. And your body is a lot more important than a car. And we don't take care. In our 20s, man, we're drinking, we're smoking, we're eating like crazy because our bodies can burn the fat right away.
Can handle it.
You get to 30 and, you know, the liver's not as sharp as it used to be to detox. And you keep eating junk food, you keep eating bad, you don't exercise. And even some of these younger people that I just kind of get shocked with how much pre-workout and caffeine stuff. And I'm like, man, wait a minute. That can't be good. Yeah. You know, or steroids or, you know, so just because you're, you know, young and you're buffed and you're working out and you're, you know, sometimes taking things you shouldn't, you know, you're going to pay the price. Eventually the body's going to let you know. And so I think to answer your question at 30, you're still in that stage where you're still young, so you can get away with certain things. But the sooner you come to a knowledge that your body is a temple, you need to take care of it, you need to watch what goes in it, I think you're going to live a lot longer life. At age around 40, yeah, they call it over the hill. I've been blessed because I haven't had bad health. I've had a couple of scares, but it wasn't due to health issues. It was just things I could have avoided. And so at 40, you start feeling every little injury that you had in your 15, 16, 17, 20. Because I have the reason why I created this product was not for business. It was to just take care of me. Yeah. I was in such pain at 38, 39 with herniated discs in my cervical spine, C2, C3, C4. The only reason why I know the numbers is because the doctor told me. L4, L5, dislocated shoulder 10 times.
Jeez.
You know, ACL, almost torn, stretched. I was always in sports and never really taking care of myself. So when I say take care of your body, you got to take care of your body because it's going to tax you later. I see all these MMA fighters. I go, great, that's tough and all that, but we're going to have a generation of broken bones and hurting old men.
What do you say about, okay, obviously you take care of your body. Well, what do you say about the people that are like, well, we could die tomorrow. Who cares? I'm going to eat as much.
You know, that's a valid point too. And if you were guaranteed to die tomorrow, then go ahead, live your last day. But you don't know.
You don't know.
I mean, do you really want to die tomorrow?
No.
So the party mode mentality has killed a lot of people. And, you know, over drinking, drugs. I mean, you hear all these artists that party too hard and then they die in their hotel rooms because they took too many drugs. Yeah, you can die. So if you want to live like it's 1999, go for it. But understand the risk and reward factor.
Yeah.
Which is, you might die if you party too hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting conversation because I know there's a lot of people, like, especially with COVID that happened, like, I survived it. I'm gonna party, man. Like, forget this. Like, it seems like everything is back to normal.
Well, it does, but there's so much controversy, whether it's real, whether it's made up, and I'm not going to answer that or entertain it. All I know is that I've lost some friends and family from COVID. And was it COVID? Was it something else? I don't know. But I do know this: science is here for a reason. It's so funny because they make such a big deal. Some of the anti-vaxxers, right? And I have a friend right now that's kind of ill and kind of in denial. I don't know if he has COVID, but we're praying for him. Hopefully he'll pull through. But we lost a couple of friends along the way. They didn't believe that this was real, and it turns out it was, and it is, and it's still killing people. What causes it? I don't know. I'm not a doctor, but I do know that if there's some sort of help, whether it's a tonic or a juice or a drink or something that would help your immune system, or do whatever you can to support your immune system. I remember going to my mechanic and I asked, what's the best oil preservative or, oil additive for my car? And he goes, tú échale el que sea, pero échale algo. In other words, he didn't brand recommend. He just says, do something. So, whether it's, eating healthier, running, walking, skiing, anything that keeps you active.
Yeah.
And helps you keep your body in shape and healthy. So maybe you might die young because you're in an accident, Lord forbid, right? But at least the quality that you had in your life, you were healthy. There's people that die at the ripe old age of 90, and then some that die at 30. What's the difference? I don't know. It's just when it's your time, it's your time.
Yeah.
There's a Mexican saying that says, cuando te toca, aunque te quites. Cuando no te toca, aunque te pongas. In other words, if it's your time, it's your time.
Yeah.
And there's a joke about a guy who was, he was at his house and he hears a knock on the door, and he opens the little peephole or whatever, and it's death. The classic death with the sickle and dressed in black, and he goes, oh he's coming for me. And so he runs to the restroom and he shaves his hair off. He goes bald, shaves his beard off. He looks totally different, and he runs out the back door. He goes to the other side of the block, and he stands on the street corner just kind of like whistling and waiting for death to leave the front door. And so death keeps knocking. The guy's not home. He says, oh, well, I guess he's not home. I'll be back later. And as death takes a turn and he walks off, he goes, I think I'll take that bald guy over there in the corner. And so the point is, if it's your turn, man, there's nothing you can do. But while you're alive, we're born small and weak, dependent on others. And if we live a long life, we're going to die young. Old and weak.
Old and weak.
And depending on others. But how you live in between is up to you. And what you leave behind, what you did with your life, what your life's legacy is, that's totally up to you.
Yeah.
And if you can, I always say, when I was in my supposed deathbed, because that's another story I won't get into today, make all kinds of promises with God. Thank God I survived, and thank to the doctors. But I had what's called a Mallory Weiss tear. My esophagus, I was bleeding internally, and they saved me, and everything was back to normal, thank God. But when I was there, I was just, please, you start trying to negotiate. I'll be a better person, and I'll do this, and I'll do that. And so really my only prayer was, I don't think I even thought about my kids at that moment. But I remember saying, I need to finish the projects I've got so it could help others. I think that's I try to do something selfless, right? Mm-hmm. And it might have worked because I'm still here, and thank God. But I remember opening up my eyes. My mom and my sisters were there in the room, and I was like, so thankful to be alive. And that's why I take this opportunity to be here, because you never know. You never know, man. And I want my kids to be proud of their father. I've been divorced. And so sometimes when you're in that situation, it's hard because you don't get to see your kids. And we're in a generation where we're raising other people's kids, man.
Yeah.
A lot of my friends are remarried, and that's the general consensus, right? So always do right. Treat your stepkids right. Do the right thing, because there's always a law of you reap what you sow, you know, or and
Karma.
Karma.
Yeah.
You call it karma. Christian circles, reap what you sow. The law of attraction. It's what's the other word?
And I think to add on to that is be kind.
Yeah.
I mean, kindness is always the right decision.
True. Respect others. It's funny. I don't know if there's anybody who's ever talked about this, but remember when you're crossing from the bridge from Mexico coming back? Everybody's so upset trying to, oh, no, you don't. And it's crazy because everybody's blocking each other. Mm-hmm. And it's like, if everybody just allowed one car to go, one, and one, I mean, you'd move a lot faster.
A lot faster.
And it's so weird how road rage just affects us all, because you could be the nicest person, and I have to work on this myself, but somebody cuts me off. It's like, I just go off. I'm upset, banging my my steering wheel. I got to work on that. But the point is, it's just a human emotion. And, but yet when you can see somebody, right, it's a lot harder to be mean in person. Mm-hmm. Because I don't know what's going on. I don't know if y'all noticed it, but when you walk into a convenience store, people open the door for you. Yeah. I mean, I think it's the nicest area here in the Valley. I don't know if that happens everywhere, but people will open the door. I think there's this cultural thing going on where you're walking in, you open the door. If we had that same attitude driving, I think we'd have a lot. Because, man, here, I think right blinker means, oh, no, you don't. And boom, they press on the gas, and it's like, the blinker's on for a reason, dude. Like, I want to get to the right. And people just, so I guess be kind is definitely a big thing. And we could all start doing that. We sound like John Lennon, right?
All you need is love.
No, it was imagine all the people.
Imagine all the people.
Living in harmony.
Well, before we finish off the podcast, I'd like to thank you very much for your time. I know you're busy, and I know you got a lot of projects coming up. And let's plug your product, man, because I think you had met my parents at a...
Oh, that was so...
Serendipitous.
So we're at D's Paradise. It's a little hidden gem, plug for them, because Don Raul Fong, good friend of mine. I don't know if you ever eaten at Junction Cafe.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, my dad used to take me there when I was a little kid.
And recently I was there, and he showed me the party room, or the banquet room, was the original HEB in Far. Actually, the first HEB in the Valley was in Far, in the corner of... I don't know if it was the original, the first one, but it's one of the earliest HEBs.
On Cage
and Business 83. Yeah. And now it's the part of the restaurant where they have the banquets. And they still have the original rose-stained or colored-stained windows there. It's really beautiful. It's historic. And so he opened up the little bar, and he remodeled it right next. Well, he didn't open up. It was already there. It was like a little cantina, you know. Mm-hmm. They call the cantinas de morirse, you know, all the old people with dollar bill.
Go and drink.
Yeah, but he remodeled it really nice. He put a beautiful sound system in there. Every Friday, his band performs. I call them the Mexican Rolling Stones, because they're older. You know, I shouldn't say older, but I mean, they definitely are not young. But
they got some miles on them.
I tell you what, their heart is young, because they still jam. It's a best kept secret on a Friday night. You guys want to go? You'll enjoy yourselves, because they play awesome music. And on the wall, there's a lot of legacy pictures of them when they're in their when they were in their 20s, long hair. And you know, I talked to Raul. He goes, "Yeah, I used to have beautiful long hair." But you know, they were inspired by all the bands, you know, Rolling Stones and all kinds of other groups, and this, you know, I guess the 50s, 60s, and 70s. And so they're still playing there, and they play awesome, man. I mean, they play ZZ Top stuff that you would swear it's ZZ Top playing, man. And it was like, damn. Anyway, so I lost my train of thought. But yeah, your parents were there one night.
Yeah.
And totally unknown to me, there was a lady, Kitty D. She's the singer for Los Gatos Locos. And so I'm related to Smiley, her husband. And so through marriage, my sister used to be married to his brother. And so anyways, we're all friends. And I'm saying hello to them. And we're talking about the podcast with you and
Queen Isabella
Robert.
Causeway.
Yeah. And she's like, oh, I was gonna he asked me if I wanted to be on there, but I'm not ready. And I had an experience, because she supposedly would go to the island during that time to perform, and
she was going through depression.
And then she was going through depression during COVID, to the point where she wanted to commit suicide, she said.
Wow.
And I said, whoa. She says, but it was that podcast that saved me. I said, are you serious?
It just gave me chills, dude.
I said, how so? He says, well, you know, if he could go through everything that he went, referring to Robert, and still be here to tell the story and bless others, I figured I could stay alive and bless others and tell my story. I don't know her story yet, but you might want to have her on the show. I don't know what that's about, but I do know that day she said, yeah, as a matter of fact, I know Joshua. Joshua wanted me to tell my story, and I'm just not ready. And then all of a sudden, while we're talking, oh, by the way, there's Joshua's parents right now. And I'm like, what? I turn around and I'm like, your parents are looking at me like, who's this dude? Like, and I said, and I almost wanted to hug them like I knew them because I know you. Yeah. And it was one of those like, like, and I was like, sir, you don't know me, but I know your son and this and that. And he's
you
like,
sent me selfie pictures. Like, what?
Yeah, and your dad just looked at me like, oh, cool. But he's kind of a quiet guy. Yeah. Your mom is a little more.
She's the one that knows everything about the podcast.
And so she was talking to me, and she's like, "Oh, I mean, Keaton, moms, they'll tell the truth about you, bro." So it's like when he was little, he was. So we had a little moment there, and I said, "Man, what a coincidence!" And so I said, "Do you mind if I take a picture?" Sure, no, and I sent it to you.
Yeah,
so that was the weirdest thing, but. Hey man, that's about connections.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
We're talking about
serendipity, man. Yeah. And that's when this was coming up. Is it's this will help pain.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
Period.
I'll tell you the story real quick. I created this out of necessity because I was in pain with my herniated discs, and I met this old man. And when I say old, he was over 100. He's still alive, by the way.
Wow.
And he actually has a radio program. Then he talks about all his, what he calls wisdom. And he doesn't like to be called a shaman because that's more spiritual, but he says that he's, wise because of his years. And so he's from the tribe of los Totonacos from Mexico. And so he says, we would cure ourselves with plants. God put all the plants on earth for a reason. And there's some good ones and there's some bad ones. The majority of them are good. So, we can eat them to... give ourselves nutrition, which is obvious. And then there's also things that can help with pain. And so you hear these little yerbitas, especially yerberias, and all that culture is already dying. But his whole goal was to pay it forward and just so he kind of chose me. And he says, mira, mijito, if you're in pain, go get yourself manzanilla. I'm like, manzanilla? I've drank manzanilla. He goes, yeah, did it help you? I said, yeah, my mom gave me manzanilla and it soothed my stomach, and I've given manzanilla to my kids. And because you know why it works? I said, well, I just thought it was like a little soothing type tea. No, it has anti-inflammatory properties, and it has this and it has that. And I was like fascinated. So I thought he was going to send me to get some manzanilla to drink. He says, no, get yourself like 2-3 pounds of it. And I go, where did I get 2-3 pounds of manzanilla? And so he says, go to the store, get the flowering tops, or order it wherever you can, and put it in a pot, steam it, or put some water, boil it till it just starts literally becoming like just a cake at the bottom. And then once the water evaporates, you're going to have oil from the plant. And be careful not to heat it too much. And he gave me all these instructions because you're going to get a little bit of oil at the end, kind of like distilling it, right? But without the copper wiring and all that fancy stuff, which I know how to do as well. But anyways, at the end, there's a little oil, a little residue. It's dark. It smells pungent. And basically just instructed me to, I'm doing the action because I had the jar of, at the time, I think it was grapeseed oil.
Okay.
And I put the grapeseed oil and then diluted it, and I put it on my neck because I was in pain. And bam, like 30 seconds later, like I'm literally like Gumby. I mean, I'm no pain. I'm like, what the heck just happened? Little did I know that was the beginning of my baby steps into learning about what we call essential oils nowadays, which is the essence of the plants, which every plant has different active compounds. And so there's plants all over the world. And so, God put all these plants for us to learn and to know what they do for us, but we've kind of gotten away from all that. And so now we just take pharmaceuticals. But if you study how pharmaceuticals are made, they are literally made from synthesizing plant compounds.
Interesting.
And so if you can go to the source, because a little quick lesson, penicillin comes from a plant, from moss or fungus, they call it, but it's more of a moss. And so what's happening is that, back in the 70s when it came out, or did it stop?
It should. No, it should.
Okay. So
I think it died.
Oh, okay.
But we're still recording here.
Cool.
Hold on. Give me a second.
Yeah, go ahead. I keep dropping my headphones. Man, I've got my phone blowing up.
We're almost done.
Yeah, I was just gonna finish with that and then. So, are we on?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, so yeah, as I was saying regarding the penicillin, so they created penicillin, they being the pharmaceutical industry, and it was great. It killed bacteria, right? But after a while, people didn't finish their course. They didn't take it right, or so the bugs started mutating and were stronger, and now they were resistant to penicillin. So they came up with a second generation called ampicillin, amplified, a little more, stronger, more side effects. Then the third generation, tetracycline, then now penticillin, and now we're in like 50th generation.
Yeah.
But everything comes from plants, right? Most medicines. The thing about plants is that every year they grow and they die, right? There's a growing cycle, and every year they have a different composition, even though it still has the same active compounds. Just like wine has different flavors depending on the geographic location and the weather conditions and all that.
Yeah.
So guess what? The bugs can't figure out the sequence of how to overcome plant. And for example, oregano oil is way stronger than antibiotics. You got all kinds of antibacterial, antiviral properties in a lot of plants. But guess what? Since people can't really stabilize it and they don't have the knowledge, and who's going to go through all the trouble of doing this, right?
Right.
So the general rule of thumb is that the FDA says nope to all these natural things. Why? Because there's plants that can harm you. There's plants that can hurt you. You don't know what you're doing. So you start chewing on any little leaf and you don't know what it's about and you haven't identified right, you could die.
Yeah.
Like hemlock. That'll make you not be able to breathe right away.
Damn.
And there's things that can actually kill you. I won't mention because I'm not into giving that information. But there's people that know this stuff and so it could be dangerous. So that's why the FDA wants to make sure that everybody's safe. But in their quest for that, they've blocked a lot of natural good plants. So the knowledge is power. The Bible actually says that people perish for lack of knowledge. So if you had the knowledge of all the plants in the world, imagine what you could do.
Yeah.
So I went a little too grandiose. But so the point is I started researching some of the more common compounds in certain flowers like chamomile tea, manzanilla. You got eucalyptus. You got the tried and true proven things that people know. And I made a little mix and a little blend. I knew one thing. I didn't want to smell like Bengay. No, I'm not dissing on them, but,
yeah.
Who wants to smell like, and it's not that Bengay smells bad per se because of the name. It's because of the menthol load. They have a lot of menthol in there, and menthol is just very irritating to the.
Very strong.
Yeah, and so you have Icy Hot, and you have all these different brands that have this basically the same thing. The FDA only recognizes menthol as the active ingredient, but they've got 10, 20% in there and it burns your skin. So we decided early on, I don't like that burning feeling. So I just put 1%, very little, just to have that cooling effect.
Yeah.
But what really helps is all the different other plants that we put in there. And I created my own blend, and I was there actually at my dad's church because at the time I didn't have place to work, and he says, yeah, you could use the office next door. And I would sit there and play with my little concoctions and came up with something. And every time that I shared it with people, they would go, oh, that smells bad. Oh, that smells. So that was my goal.
Instant feedback.
Yeah, instant feedback. It was my informal focus group. And so what happened was I finally said, why don't I put something that smells good in there and cover the bad scents? And I started putting in like things like ylang ylang, which is a flower out of Madagascar. We've all watched that little movie. But anyways, it's a island off of Africa, and that flower smells so beautiful that it's actually called odorata something. I can't remember right now. But anyways, it's stronger than gardenia. So I masked the scent with that. I masked scents with other things. And of course, the exact formulation I'm not going to reveal, but it's like baking a cake. You have to have a certain amount of this, a little pinch of that, and then you bake the perfect cake. And so that's the proprietary information. And so I went forward, and then from there, we had a couple of opportunities with a couple of doctors, and they helped us. And then so this is the second generation. It used to be called something else, but now we renamed it. And so we really honored our Hispanic culture, and heritage. We call it Sana Max for a reason, because of the saying Sana Sana, Colita de Rana. And so everybody knows the Sana Sana.
Everybody knows
it's like Kiss the Boo Boo for Anglos, because people say, Anglo people are like, what's Sana Colita de Rana? I said, actually, it's like Kiss the Boo Boo, right? Everybody knows if you get hurt, your mom would say Kiss the Boo Boo, right? Yeah. But if you're Mexicano or you're Latino and you got hurt, your mom would be Sana Colita Rana, you know. And so we created a little character. We call it our Geico Gecko, and it's our Doctor Rana. And so we sponsored a couple of events where we're going to be promoting our product. And soon, I'm very happy to report, after 8 long years of dreaming, thanks to my partners. Can I mention their names?
Of course.
Yeah, Mark Lopez and Samuel Sanchez, and Ernesto Guerra. They've been with me since the beginning. And if it wasn't for them, you know, especially the funding that they provided and allowed for us to get to this level, we had to pay for, you know, FDA.
Which is a whole thing within itself.
Yeah, classification, which we're not FDA approved. Over the counter only gets a classification called GRAS, generally regarded as safe. So every single word and anything that's claimed for any type of, you know, medical reason, you get reviewed 10 times over.
Damn.
We had 13 revisions. Took us 18 months.
Wow.
And finally got that. And then on top of that, then trying to find somebody who would carry it. So we were signed into an contract distribution agreement by a company called Midway Importing out of Houston. And they had told me no many times, but, you know, I was terco.
Yeah.
Kept on knocking.
Persistent.
Yeah. And I always remember my 101 in sales was that if the front door, you know, gets shut on you in sales, because, you know, if you do it in homes, it's called breaking and entering. But when you go knocking on a door for a sales call, if they tell you no, then, you know, try to meet some of the people that work there.
Yeah.
And kind of get into the back door. And so I started gifting a lot of product to the warehouse workers. And of course, who gets around the owner of the company is the warehouse workers. Yeah, the employees. Yeah. And so they would say, hey, sir, this product is really good. And so eventually I got a call back.
That's smart, man.
And so they were like, we don't know who you are, but your product's a little too big and we need it smaller. We had a 4-ounce presentation. So they asked us for a 1 ounce because they felt that the price point was better. And so now we came up with a little 1 ounce tube like this, and we call it Sana Max. And we're now going to be distributed at all the HEBs.
That's awesome, man.
Which is a big deal because we're the first Hispanic company that's competing against Icy Hot and Tiger Balm and all those other.
That's awesome, man. Congratulations.
And so we're up against Shaquille O'Neal, which is bittersweet for me because I love Shaquille O'Neal.
I don't know who doesn't love Shaq.
Yeah, yeah. And, you know, my sister went to school with him. It was in San Antonio, yeah.
Oh, shit.
When he was still in high school. And we knew of him when he was in high school. So I followed him when I worked at Radio Shack. Part of it, I worked in San Antonio. I remember Foot Locker was right across from Radio Shack. And they had that big shoe of Shaquille O'Neal. Yeah. The first time he was signed to Orlando Magic. And so I remember, sorry Shaquille, but you know, we've got Sana Max. We may end up trying to get a professional soccer player to endorse us.
That's awesome, man.
And we got commercials coming up that will deal with soccer players. You know how they get hurt and they roll around on the ground and cry? Yeah. We're going to have a commercial where the referee is actually giving them a Sana Max and stuff.
Those guys should become actors, man.
Yeah, man. So we're working on commercials and stuff like that, and hopefully we'll grow. And we do have some events in Dallas and Houston and Miami for a music
That's awesome.
group. And he dances that Zumba fitness stuff. Yeah. I sent you some of the promos, and so it's going to be really fun. We're going to give out lots of free stuff. Actually, I'd like to take the time to plug and say, if you know anybody that wants one of these boxes, we're giving out thousands free samples. Why? Because my mentor that taught me all about how to make this product, not exactly this product, but taught me all about the flowers and the plants and all the benefits, told me, when you make something that you claim does something for someone, give it away. Because if it doesn't work and you sold it to them, they're going to think you ripped them off. Yeah. So give it away, and if it works for them, they're going to look for you and want to, buy it from you. I said, that's the best advice. So what we decided to do, we're giving away over 10,000 units.
Wow.
To the community. So anybody that wants a free box for their grandma, their grandfather, their loved one, if you're the owner of a assisted living or a home health or daycare or anything that that you feel that your people would benefit, we'll be more than glad to send you free samples of the product.
There you go. There's no excuse not to get this into your hands.
You just go to sonamaxusa.com or sonamaxplus.com, and that's where you can go to the community section and fill out your information. And of course, want to make sure people are being honest and not just going to take them and resell them. So we're going to be at HEB. We're going to be CVS Nationwide.
That's
signed
awesome,
us.
Man.
So we're super excited. And I called my mom. I said, Mom, we're not going to have to worry about paying the light bill. I mean, once we get because my investment partners get the money first. And I think the second or third quarter, then I'll finally see $1.
Yeah.
But,
well, once again, man, I appreciate your time. I love what you're doing for the community. I love the products that you're pushing out.
Thanks.
And entrepreneurship is fucking hard, man.
Yeah.
Period.
Oh, can we cuss?
Oh, of course, man. This is an unfiltered.
Okay, yeah. I've been very PG.
Oh, no. This is what the podcast is for. But
sure.
I appreciate your time once again. Where can they get this again?
sonamaxusa.com.
There you go. You heard it here.
Yeah.
We'll see you guys. Bye.
Thank you, guys.
Hey folks, there's a pandemic, there's an epidemic, and it's sweeping across the country, and the RGV is a hot spot, and it's not COVID, it's bad credit. Bad credit can rob you of a lifetime of high interest payments, tens of thousands of dollars. It can rob you from getting that dream home or that beautiful car that you've always wanted. Don't let bad credit do that to you. Give us a call, Beretta Credit Repair. The number's on the screen. Give us a call. We're right here in the RGV. You'll be glad you did.
Hey guys, I don't know if you knew this, but you can actually start solar with nothing up front, nothing down. My name's Johnny Garza. I'm with the McAllen Valley Roofing and Solar LLC. I'm the acting solar specialist here, and I'm here to make you aware of the incentives that we have. To give you an example, I had a customer come in and they wanted a roof. The roof was going to cost $12,000 to $14,000. And I offered them the choice of going solar. They said they were thinking about it, they just didn't know how to go about it. Said simply just give me your light bill and I'll go off of the usage that you've been using already in your home so I can make the system big enough to sustain your home. I also told them that I can include the roof. They wouldn't have to give me anything down. They can keep the money in the bank and I could finance it all together. Payment was literally the same or a little bit more than what they were paying for light. We have a 30-year warranty on the system and the marksmanship of the installation. So the sustainability of the system, if anything happens, for example, if we go on the roof and we damage a roof, our warranty covers that repair. So just call the number down below and Dana will answer and take care of you just like family.